Adolf Hitler was surrounded by some of the most vile humans in history, and while Joseph Goebbels is one of the most well-known, lesser discussed is one of Hitler's best assassins, SS Lieutenant Colonel Otto Skorzeny. Otto Skorzeny had fairly humble beginnings. Unlike Adolf Hitler, who was born into a family of poor farmers in a small Austrian town, Skorzeny was born to middle-class parents in Vienna. Still, he lived through the economic depression that followed Austria's defeat in World War I, which saw the region struggle with high rates of unemployment. The country was effectively helpless to the external forces that drove this downturn, devastating its economy and infrastructure. It was during this hardship that Skorzeny's father instilled in him the values needed to survive what is called a Spartan life: discipline, self-denial, and simplicity. This mindset seemed to drive Skorzeny's path as a child. He took up fencing and fought others with live steel, dangerous contests called student duels that left him with his signature scar across his face. Even today, these ritual duels are common at German universities, which often have secret meetings and rules governing the contests. He graduated from Vienna University with a degree in engineering on December 11, 1931. It was after graduation that Otto Skorzeny began to walk the path that put him in the most violent pages of history. You know the one.
Across the U.S., panic spreads as Americans realize they have enemies off both coasts.
Though his father taught him the Spartan mindset as a child, it appears that Skorzeny's path is not one he agreed with. His parents were staunch opponents of the Nazi Party. He clearly was not. Skorzeny joined the Austrian Nazi Party not too long after college amid frustration with Austria's economic depression. In 1934, he joined the Storm Division, the paramilitary organization of the Nazi Party. It was a critical part of Adolf Hitler's rise to power, providing personal security to his supporters and employing violent methods of intimidation against their political opponents. Skorzeny was too tall and too old to join the Luftwaffe when World War II broke out, so in 1939 he joined the Waffen-SS and joined Hitler's personal bodyguard unit, Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler. The regiment ruthlessly slaughtered civilians and prisoners of war, and it wasn't long before Skorzeny began to make a name for himself thanks to his resourcefulness, daring, and deception, which is just Nazi for killing a whole lot of people. From here, he became a colonel in the Waffen-SS division Das Reich, and eventually he was tasked with equipping the 1st SS Division with armor in 1942. Then, the main Office of State Security, the RSHA, assigned him to a covert commando role, which led to one of his most notorious escapades. Arguably, Skorzeny's most famous mission was Operation Aisha, a Bond-esque mission that involved rescuing Benito Mussolini at Campo Imperatore in the Abruzzi Mountains. Hitler himself appointed Skorzeny to rescue Mussolini from a hotel tucked away on the Gran Sasso Massif over 5,000 feet in the air. If you're not familiar with the geography of Italy, this isn't up near Switzerland or Austria, but rather just a bit northeast of Rome, smack dab in the middle of the country. On September 12, 1943, Skorzeny's team of 12 gliders reportedly flew over a cliff and dropped 1,000 feet, landing on the mountainside behind the hotel. Just 4 minutes later, Skorzeny bluffed his way to victory. The 200 Italian guards, who were bewildered, surrendered Mussolini. There's tons of other missions and murders Skorzeny was involved with during World War II, but things got spicy after the war. Scarface, as he was known, surrendered in 1945, not too long after Hitler did himself in. Things get kinda crazy from here. He was tried but acquitted for war crimes. And get this, it wasn't for all the killing he pulled off, but for stealing Red Cross rations. He escaped from the denazification prison, made it to Madrid, and also spent time in Ireland. He supposedly traveled to Argentina and served as a bodyguard for Juan Perón and had an affair with Evita herself, Ava Perón. We haven't even gotten to the crazy part yet. Buckle up. The strangest twist in Otto Skorzeny's story is when he went on to work for Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence agency. How in the world did a Nazi end up working for the Israelis?
Mossad, one of the most effective secret services in the world. Its job, to prevent another Holocaust.
Skorzeny joined the service after World War II and acted as a hitman. His targets? Former Nazi rocket scientists. After World War II, Mossad set its Nazi hunting operation Damocles into motion and set its sights on rocket scientists working in Egypt. Skorzeny wound up assassinating Nazi rocket expert Heinz Krug on September 11, 1962. Krug was reportedly working on weapons intended to wipe out Israel.
Nasser is saying these missiles can destroy any target south of Beirut.
Egypt's President Gamal Abdel Nasser notably threatened to destroy the country in 1967, and Israelis believed that Nasser was a figure akin to Adolf Hitler. At the time, Jewish newspapers like the Wisconsin Jewish Chronicle characterized his leadership as, quote, genocide plans against the Jewish people in Israel. Sometimes you need to use those that know your enemy the most to win, and in this case, the Mossad used a Nazi to kill Nazis. The death of Otto Skorzeny is one that seems almost too boring for someone whose life involves such a strange mix of chaos and atrocities. He died of bronchial cancer on July 5, 1975, at his home in Madrid, Spain. Far cry from the man who the New York Times once called the most dangerous man in Europe. Hundreds of former Nazis attended his two funerals in Madrid and Vienna, and his remains were cremated and taken to Vienna by his widow. He was interred in the family plot. Skorzeny was very wealthy at the time of his death, and he never revealed why he chose to work for Mossad. In a piece for Forward, journalists Dan Raviv and Yossi Melman suggested some reasons for this. One might have been the allure of the work, as he, quote, had a very strong streak of adventurism. The two wrote, Skorzeny was the kind of man who would feel most youthful and alive through killing and fear.
Everybody wants me.
Regrets and atonement might also have been factors, though they noted that Mossad's psychological analysts doubted this was the case. Whatever his reasons, he was among many Nazis who never truly faced a comeuppance that others did for their role in one of the most horrifying campaigns of violence that the world has ever known.